Hello, everybody. Alex the Railroader here for another update. As you know, most everybody is kind of self isolating right now, and before I had to self isolate, I kind of went out and bought some supplies to work on my layout. So let's see what I got here. So there is my layout. Today I'm going to clear it up, but as you can see, I have some really large foam sheets here. These sheets I bought two of them. They were a set of 4 by 8 styrofoam sheets. They're about 3 inches thick. Um, each one went for about $40, although thanks to a good friend of mine, I was able to get them on discount, so that was really nice. And so, like I said, it's just styrofoam. Now, originally I wanted to get extruded foam. A lot of railroad layout builders, they get extruded foam, which is really great to work with, really great to carve with. The problem is that in Southern California, where I live, you can't really buy extruded foam unless it's got some kind of weird like aluminum sheet over it. Maybe that has to do with the fact that we have consistent weather down here in Southern California, so that kind of insulation is not needed. I don't know. All I know is this is the best that I could get, honestly, after months of searching. So anyway, I'm going to be clearing off this layout board and then installing these sheets and then maybe even carving out the river. Alright, there's the layout all cleared off and cleaned up. I even dusted it too. So I have actually seen it look like this since I got it. But again, this area that's cut out for those of you who are new is for the canyon, and you'll see all that develop later, or even check in with the most recent episode before this one. Alright, here we are. I applied the styrofoam and I cut out the little canyon here. I had to be really careful because I have a small dog here, and every time you see these little bits of styrofoam come off, he wants to run after it. So I've had to constantly vacuum as I was cutting this and prevent him from eating anything. Also, you may have noticed I was cutting this with a kitchen knife. The reason is, like, normally I would use like a box cutter or something, but the problem is that this styrofoam is really thick, and when you're trying to put a blade into it, it wants to grip the blade, and the thinner the blade you have, the more likely it is going to snap on you. So I got a nice thick kitchen knife to cut into it. That did the trick. I had to perforate it along the edges, but it got the job done. I also had already pre-drawn a grid on this. So that way when I go in to figure out where the track is going to go, where the buildings are going to go, where the river is going to go, because cutting out the river is next, then I will know exactly where to put everything. Alright, so 48 hours have elapsed since the last time I took video. I laid down the foam, and of course, I think I already told you, I put a grid on it so that way I know where everything is in relation to the plans I drew up. And then, as you can also see, I ended up carving out the river, so it'll go from that corner there all the way over there, and it widens up around that spot over there because I might have like a few islands or something. Today I'm gonna also try to lay down some track. I know a lot of you might think this is kind of an early stage. Some of you are like, oh yeah, this is the right time to do it. And the reason why I'm laying down track at this stage is because after the track goes in, I have to put in the mountains and the different terrain and stuff. And you really can't get a good idea of where to put permanent stuff like mountains until your track is in and you can see how your trains behave on the layout. So that's why the train will go in, or the track will go in next. Now, one final thing before I start doing that. You're probably wondering why I didn't show myself cutting the foam. I know there's probably kids watching and stuff. I don't want them to see how to cut foam because it's a very, very dangerous thing, and the gases that are emitted are very toxic. Anyway, I'm going to get to to doing that. So first, I gotta put the layer of riverbed. Alright, well, I tried to cut out a riverbed, and the result was a little less than satisfying. I might end up just doing paper mache on the bottom of there. I would do plaster cloth, because believe me, I do have plaster cloth. I just didn't want to waste all my plaster cloth on the bottom of a riverbed, so I might end up doing, paper mache on the bottom. Another thing I did was I drilled holes that will go down through the bottom there, and then I can wire up everything. So I do actually plan to lay down track today, but don't expect for me to be running trains today, because this whole canyon, I still have to build a bridge for it, because there's going to be a whole lot of unsupported track here, and obviously I'm not going to run a train over that. So, alright, it's a little progress report of how I'm doing. So I've begun the process of bending the track and putting it into its place. I already had created a dotted line as to where the track would go, so it would act as kind of like a template. So I haven't glued down the track yet. Instead, I've just kind of used these push pins to keep them in place, so that way I can kind of visualize and make sure everything's going in correctly. Now this flex track that I'm using, I've never used flex track like this before. Usually I used to use Atlas N scale, and Atlas has a habit of, like, you bend it and it bends back. It's like spring loaded practically. This is different. Once you bend it, it stays. It stays in the exact place you bent it. So that can be a little bit difficult, because when making these turns, if you're not careful at bending every inch or so, you can get these weird little kinks like that. And so it's not difficult. It's just very new to me. I've never done this before. And so anyway, I've just been doing this by hand. It looks pretty smooth, like a pretty smooth curve here. So I think I'm doing the right thing. Now, you're also probably wondering about the bed of the track. A lot of modern railroads, they sit a couple feet off the ground, sometimes just a foot. I decided for mine I wasn't going to do that. One, because in the past, every time I've put some kind of foam or cork or something, it never goes down evenly, and it makes the track very warped and not just, it's a mess. But also, I did a lot of research, and I found out for very old railroads and stuff, they didn't bother to do that. Instead, they just put the ties right on the ground, and then around it they poured the ballast. So anyway, I'm going for the old-fashioned style, and in my opinion, it looks better. Alright, progress update. So I've got most of the main line already set in place, and then I soldered it together. The only thing that is not completed is the area where the trestle bridge will go, and again, that's probably for obvious reasons. I still have to build some kind of support structure, and then I probably need to create a template so that way I can actually bend the track, because it was hard enough to bend that track with that big gap in the center, trying to figure out how to make a perfect curve. I finally got it, but so I'm gonna need to do a template for the trestle bridge. I'm on the other side of the layout now. I decided before I went and started wiring everything together that I would test the track with a car. So this is one of my passenger cars. Testing the switch, just kind of pushing it along, and put the camera thing there. That's bothering me. Alright. So, now I'll switch the track. Oh, I forgot it's not glued down yet. Nice. I've actually already tested it around the whole track so far, and everything's working, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. Okay, so I went and completed as much of the wiring as I could, so all the areas where I had a hole and stuff, I put the wires and and soldered them together. And then I put that last piece of track in towards the back. That's the one and only staging area, which will be hidden by a very narrow piece of rockwork that will go that length there, probably about 4 feet wide. So then I went around and took this Elmer's glue wall. So I like to use this because, first of all, it's just one of the best glues you can use for this project because it's got it's really strong glue when it dries, and then of course, like Elmer's glue, it's really safe to work with. It's easy to clean up, all that stuff. So I went down and I glued all the track down with the Elmer's glue, and then I used the pins to pin the track in place. Now this switch track will veer off into this area where the locomotive house will be, the engine house, and then there will be a spur line that is specifically just for freight, and it will rest somewhere over there, and then with the track ending just over the river there. So I'm really excited, but there's nothing more I can do on this today. So I'll have to check back with you some other time. So this will be really exciting. I'm very happy with how this is turning out so far. All right, so that's going to do it for this update today. So tune in next time, which should be very soon actually, since I'm locked in here. I got nothing else to do but this. So anyway, yeah, hope to see you again real soon.